In 1919, he hit 29 home runs and was sold to the New York Yankees.
A three-run home run for Buckington. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
Brown hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
Varitek and A-Rod going at it. Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
And what can I say? Just tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddies.
Welcome to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. Brian Shackman, John Senecal here for episode 111. And, you know, it's one of those things where you heard the name and you've seen where he's been. You know, I'm 51. What are you, Matt?
48.
John? You're 48. So you don't really necessarily remember Clint Hurdle as a player, although when you think of that great Royals team, he was out there for that, and you might have focused on, you know, George Brett and some others, or Quisenberry and all the other players. But so when you get a chance to speak with someone like that, that's one thing. But then you go back into his career and his life journey, and I mean, I believe it as a journalist. Everyone has a story, and he's got a
few of them, I think.
He's got a heck of a story, and he joins us now. I don't know if it's a Mr. Hurdle, Manager Hurdle, Skip, Clint. How are you?
Clint works really well wherever I go.
So, you know, the reason why we have one of our loyal listeners is a good friend of yours, and I'll leave him nameless, and I was grateful for the connection. But you're in Hartford, and you know you're working for the Rockies, a team you managed for, you know, several years, and I think we should just start there and just, you know, what are you doing in Hartford?
Well, I am putting my eyes on our AA team here. And that's inclusive. I go and I walk the facilities. I'm just trying to be another set of eyes for Bill Schmidt. Bill Schmidt reached out to me when he was named full-time general manager. You know, he had the interim tag for a while, and he reached out to me after the 21 season and asked if I would have any interest in coming back and helping out the Rockies. And I said, well, it depends on what you want me to do. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, it's not important what I want to do. I said, I think I want to hear how you think you can best utilize, you know, my experience. And he said, well, Clint, I've been a scouting director for almost 25 years where I go find talent. I hunt players. I'm college, high school. I'm all over. He goes, I don't have a lot of experience in player development and growing these players and the alignment of our programs, pitching and hitting and fielding. Would you be willing to come back and invest most of your time in our player development organization? And I go, you know, it's funny you should say that because that's the only reason I would want to come back. I said I was blessed with a lot of major league time. And 17 years as a manager. I was also a hitting coach, you know, a player, a lot of time in the big leagues. So my heartbeat, my passion is helping grow boys into men and men into leaders and sharing some experience, strength, and hope with the managers and coaches in our affiliates. So that's it in a nutshell. I look at the facilities. I spend time with Tim Restall. I get to know how the operation works a little bit here, the people that run our clubhouse, our trainers, our strength and conditioning coaches. Basically, I'm a relationship builder is what I'm trying to do, and that's enough for now. It's plenty.
Now, Clint, is that something that you're doing throughout the whole minor league system, or is that like is this your first stop of the year, or is this?
No, I do it throughout the system. We go up and down. It runs from bottom to top and top to bottom. My first stop was in Albuquerque for opening day. I'm only here for a short visit. I got to get back home. I got a son that rows crew. He's got a big event this weekend, but I'll be here through Friday. Come up short on one game. This is my second visit of the season, my second trip. And we have a good ball club here. We had a good ball club here last year. And I think the fans of the Yard Goats are going to appreciate the pitchers and the players we put in here. Obviously a beautiful place for AA players to play and a well-run operation as well. Tim does a nice job, Resto, running the program.
Yeah, I was going to make fun. I was going to make fun of him, but I can't. He's a 10 out of 10. He's a great guy.
Well, we can still make fun of him, but he's just a really good guy. He can make fun of me. We can't laugh at ourselves, right? It was very short-sighted, and if you can laugh at yourself, you're going to be entertained the rest of your life. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Are you done? Are you done in the dugout?
Done.
Okay. So
Done.
Well, think about it. If he was in the dugout, there would be no chance he'd be going to see his son Crew. There'd be absolutely no chance. He wouldn't be a thought in his mind. He wouldn't even bring it up.
No, I get it. You're right. No, you're exactly right, because my space, my life space has switched dramatically. I've had opportunities to get back in uniform, and I had a fresh one after I was fired in Pittsburgh. I actually went and interviewed for the hitting coach job of the Padres and was offered a 2-year deal, and went home and talked to my wife. And after Carla and I walked through it, and I don't know how many times I heard her say, well, the kids and I will figure it out. The kids and I will figure it out. The kids and I will figure it out. I said, honey, okay. I took a walk myself and figured it out that maybe it was time for me to figure it out. And just, it was time to be home.
Yeah.
45 years in uniform, just so many wonderful things, some hard things too. But it was time to be home. And little did I know when I retired, in my mind, from wearing the uniform in the middle of November, that the rest of the world would retire in mid-March when COVID hit. So not only did I retire, then I got shut down.
Yeah.
And I got plugged into my family in a very forceful way, because I had been gone every 2 weeks for all the years I'd known my wife, Carla, for all the years of my kids' lives. I'm out of the house 2 weeks a month. And now for almost 2 years, I'm home every day. That was a lot. That was some tremendous learning lessons for all of us.
Yeah, I think there's a euphemism in there for sure. We're talking with Clint Hurdle, because I think to some degree we've all experienced it. And me as a journalist now doesn't have the same commitment on the road necessarily, but I had the same. It's so funny you say that. We'll work it out. A great partner will say that because they don't want to stand between you and your dreams and your aspirations, but you can feel it when that sacrifice starts to hurt. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. A couple quick questions here on the baseball side of things before we get into a bit of your baseball story. I read that, the philosophy right now with the Rockies is not just to develop, it's to win, because winning is part of development. I mean, the 2 years ago, like the Yard Goats were not good, and then last year they were great. And so how do you balance the desire to win with the desire to develop?
Well, it's a good question. And I would say that you're just understanding of both. There's times when the development part of it is probably going to drive the bus. And then there's part of the times when, you know what, we need to find ways to meet the demands of the game and win a ball game. And I think there comes a point in time where our mindset shifted with Bill Schmidt and Chris Forbes, that we weren't winning at the major league level. We weren't winning at the minor league level. You want to build a championship, you need to develop your own championship players. And one of the things I ask kids right away when they first sign up with us is, what are your dreams? And every one of them, rightfully so, wants to be a big leaguer. And I'm more interested in what their next answer is, because it goes, sometimes it's lifestyle. Truth told, sometimes it's money. Some of our kids need to provide for their families. We're encouraging them, what your next goal is to win a championship wherever you're playing. Go win a ring where you're playing that season. Go force us to move you at some point in time during the season based on the fact that you've performed well. You've met the demands of the game. And the one thing we are continuing to share with our players is the importance of meeting the demands of the game. There's tipping points in every game. When you meet those tipping points, you put yourself in a position to win. When you don't meet the tipping points, you set yourself up to lose. So it's not rocket science, but when you put an emphasis on it, I think you guys will agree with me as men. And I've talked to my wife about this. And when you put your focus on something, you get more out of what you're focused on, right?
Yeah.
And we want to let our kids know that winning's important. And once we get in between the lines, we're not practicing anymore. We're not working on something that we were out in the field at 3 o'clock doing. We're out there to compete, and that's been the big part of it. I think last year we finished second in baseball with number of minor league wins, and we had never even sniffed that position before. And our kids start taking it to heart. And the fun thing about what their mindset is now is we got beat up last night a little 13-7 at the dunk. And you know what? The kids are coming back. They're refreshed. They showered well, and they're ready to play today. Before, sometimes, you get beat 13-7, so, well, we'll see what happens today. No, we're going to make something happen today. I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, Clint, you talked about, organizations building from within and developing their talent. You managed a team in the Pirates where basically, if you look back at the last 10 years, you pretty much had their last flux of good talent that they developed. And they're just, you had the Garrett Coles and the Andrew McCutcheons and, they've all gone. And you look at that team over the last 10 years and you would think, based on how they would finish, that they would be in a better position than they are now. And yet they're not. What in your opinion is what's the reasoning behind that? Is it something where they're just not focused on keeping the talent that's there, or is it something they don't want to spend to bring a piece of the puzzle in to build around?
Well, I don't think it's any misunderstanding within the realm of baseball that we had a philosophy, and I say we because we're all involved in it. We may not all be on the same side of the fence of it, but there was a payroll that was dictated by fan base attendance and money revenues, and that's the amount of money we were going to spend. And if players got to a position where they priced themselves and that payroll was going to expend without an idea of guaranteed revenue matching it, we moved them. I mean, you saw, look over the years, the people that have moved on from the Pirates, and the fact that we got very good at finding players on the margins and players that had not performed well, but had some success in the past and brought them in. To bring in an A.J. Burnett, to bring in a Jay Hupp, to bring in a Francisco Liriano, to bring back Russell Martin, to bring back Francisco Cervelli, some of the guys we were able to go out and bring in, Jason Grilli, Mark Melanson. We found some ways to do some good things, but there was never, ever talked about really a plan on keeping players around for the long term. McCutcheon at one time, I think, had signed the biggest contract as far as the number. It was like 6 years at 51. Russell Martin got paid $13 million, or I think we signed him for 3. Can you imagine this? 3 years at $27 million, $9 a year, and that was the largest free agent contract they had put together at that time. Now, lately, they've gone out and spent some money, but the payroll really has been one of the bigger challenges on finding a way to do it. And that being said, the team down in Tampa Bay does it every year. So it's not an excuse. It can be done. It just makes your safety net smaller and your misses can't be as often. You got to hit right a lot.
I find, though, that, the teams that have done that cyclical element, right? I mean, listen, from Houston aside, the A's sort of kind of perfected it. You sort of you develop players, then when they're about to be expensive, you dump them off, and then you get a bunch of young talent, and you start over. And Pittsburgh had a little bit of that too, but it often leads the recipe to compete, but not the recipe to win it all. And so, are we going to have just a half a dozen teams in perpetuity who have a chance to win the World Series?
I don't think that's anybody's mindset, but pragmatically, on paper, it can look like that. One of the things I like that's going on is that there's a handful of owners out there right now that don't care what anybody else thinks. And they're spending their money. And they want to win. And they're giving their fan base more than hope. Now players got to go out and play. You look what they've done with the Mets. You look what they've done with the Phillies. You look what the Padres are doing. Now, the financial and the fiscal responsibility and accountability, I don't know all about that. But I do believe you want to build a culture in which your fan base, it's not just based on hope every year. Because there comes a point when hope is not a game plan. It's not a strategy. And the thing with moving players at the highlight of their career, to get younger players, you don't bat 1,000 on those deals, and not every one of those younger players you bring back turns into be a good player. It's hard. It's an inexact science. So what you're seeing is some teams, they're being run like businesses, unfortunately. I'm just going to cut to the chase. And when people are making money, it's a good business. When they're not making money, it's a bad business. And I shared with Neil Huntington all the time that I didn't ever want to hear the talk downstairs in the clubhouse that this is a business. It's never been a business to me. It's always been a sport. The day it would become a business for me is be the day I need to head back to the house again. and try that retirement thing that I failed at the first time.
It's interesting you say that because every time you hear about a free agent, the first thing they say is, well, this is a business.
Yeah.
It's the first thing out of their mouth when they're going for free agency. Well, baseball is a business. I understand that. So, yeah, you should.
And the second thing you hear, though, is they want to win.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you'd like to think that you can develop a culture where you're at, where they know that you're trying to win. But a lot of guys leave because of what you brought up earlier. They don't believe they really have a chance to win. They have a chance to compete, maybe get to the playoffs. That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. We're talking with Clint Hurdle, of course, played Major League Baseball, managed it, and now is a special assistant with the Colorado Rockies, dealing with their player development here on Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports. Brian Shackman and John Senecal here. I'll sort of defer the rule changes and the managerial stuff for the end. You brought up your mindset as in baseball, and that started with you as a player. And I remember the name Clint Hurdle because you brought up Neil Huntington. We went to the same college together. He was older than me, but we always follow the career that people were connected to. And I followed him closely when he was in Pittsburgh. And obviously, I'm a Red Sox fan, and I remember the 07 World Series, which we'll get to. But I didn't know much about you. And then going back and reading some of your biography, I always believe it as journalists that everyone has a story. And I want to go back, as the people don't know your backstory, and you were in high school in Florida, and you could have gone to the University of Miami and maybe been a two-sport athlete. You could have gone pro in baseball, and I believe you could have gone to Harvard, and you chose pro baseball. And it's funny you talk about the winning and that in the game, but I'm wondering, in a Billy Beanish life lesson way, did you make that decision to go pro because of the money or because you wanted to play baseball?
Oh, my God, no, not because of the money. I want to play baseball. I've been playing it since I was 5 in the backyard. I can't tell you how many Game 7s I had before I actually got drafted in the backyard, wiffle ball. I mean, it was never about the money. I found out the hard way that things I've done for the money in life never have turned out good. I got the money, but there was too much other baggage, collateral damage that came with it that I usually would opt out and didn't want the money anymore.
Well, so why did you decide to go pro over those other options?
It's why does a dog wag his tail? His heart. My heart, I wanted to be a ball player. I wanted to give that my first shot. I just love baseball. I love the practice. I love the community element, the team element. I loved playing defense. When you don't have a day with the bat, you can go out and throw leather and do something significant. I love celebrating the success of my teammates when they did well. I love to practice. I think that was the biggest thing. Football, rumor has it I was a really good football player. I was a quarterback. I was the guy you couldn't hit all week, wore the funny jersey, and Friday nights were awesome. But rather than that, it was a pain. And my dad loved football. And to this day, we joke about it because there's people at home that say I picked the wrong sport to this day, that I should have been a football player. But I didn't have the heart for football. I didn't have the desire to practice. Baseball, any day of the week, I could grab my stuff, get on my bike, go to a park, go to a field, stay there all day, come home. Football, oh, my God, practice. What time is it? Oh, when are we going to be done? It was just a different deal.
Clint, after you're drafted and then you make it to the major leagues and then you have the honor of being on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I wanna ask you about.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about social media nowadays. That back in the day was the social media.
That was it.
So if you're on the cover of that's like you being like the president of the United States in a way and doing your press conference. But what I'm interested to ask you is, did you feel like an enormous amount of pressure after that?
Oh, yes. And I laugh when you said it was an honor. If it was an honor, I got dishonorably discharged. There's a funny.
I guess they don't ask you, right? They basically just put you on there.
They don't ask you. They told the story. My PR guy Dee Vogelaar said they're going to visit 15 players this spring. You and Willie Wilson are one of them. We're on the same team. They want to do a photo shoot. And then they'll pick somebody and it'll be on the cover. And this is when they were doing it annually. For the next so-and-so or this year's Phenom. I think that's what the tag was on the front of the cover, this year's Phenom for me. But a funny story is every morning on the way to spring training, we've done the cover shoot. Who knows what's going to happen? They don't even tell you when it's going to come out. So I go every morning on the way into the ballpark, Terry Park in Fort Myers. I'm 20 years old, And I stop at the 7-Eleven to get my breakfast of champions, my honey bun and my quart of milk. And you get your stuff, and if you remember back at 7-Eleven in 1978, you put it on the counter, and there wasn't a magazine section. There's 3 magazines in the 7-Eleven back in the late 70s. One's Time, one's Newsweek, and one's Sports Illustrated. They're all on the counter where you check out. So that day, I go to check out. The cashier guy's my age. And I put my stuff on the counter. He looks at me, hey, good morning, how you doing? I'm good, how are you? And he goes, hey, wait a minute. I've seen you before. And I go, yeah, I'm in here like every day. He goes, no, this is weird. He goes, look. And I look at the magazine. He points down the magazine cover, and he looks at me. And I look at him. I look at the magazine cover, and I see me, and we look at each other, and I just freak out. I just walked out. I left my honey bun.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, the quart of milk and the honey bun are still there, you know.
Still fresh.
They're still there 45 years later. They're still there. And I walk out, and I was just paralyzed. And it wasn't fear. It was just numbness. It was like, oh, my gosh, something has changed. That was in my mind. And little did I know how much would change. Because, as you said, no social media. That was a deal. You didn't have classes where they sent the rookies to Washington where MLB got involved, and you had your own group training within your organization on PR and how to and what to do and what not to do and all these things. You figured it out on your own. I walk in that clubhouse, and there's some guys that are laughing at me. There's some guys like that's really cool. And there's some guys that have been around 15, 20 years, never got their picture on the cover of anything.
They're pissed.
That are angry.
Yeah. That's incredible.
That was a lot.
You know, it's funny. There's so many. We only have a few minutes left here, and I the first thing that pops out of me, is this. Just so you know, for context, this podcast started as a pandemic thing. John's a huge Yankee fan. I'm a huge Red Sox fan. I've been in the media here in Connecticut for a number of years, and we just did it for fun, based on the Red Sox Yankees, and it's morphed into just a baseball podcast. And you know, when I think of you have just an incredible perspective, because you were in the Mets clubhouse the year before they won it, and then you were in the Mets clubhouse the year after they won it, but not the year they won it. And I'm curious about what your perspective was the year before when you were there. If you sort of, I mean, I know the young talent was there, and we got a little snippet of that from Billy Beane and Moneyball too. And then the year after, did you maybe realize that maybe this was there were too many things going on for it to be a multiple-year championship run? I just wanted your perspective on your little Mets sandwich.
Well, my Mets sandwich was a blessing in disguise. I got released opening day in Seattle after having the best spring training I ever had in my life. I've been released by the Reds over the winter, so I was trending down, as they would say in today's sport world vernacular. I was trending down. Got released by the Reds, signed with the Mariners. Renee Latchman was the manager. I had the best spring ever. The day before opening day, I was pulled in the manager's office, told I made the team. Veda Pinson, Frank Funk, Chuck Cartier, all the coaches, hugs. Oh, man, I was so excited. Called my dad, tell my dad, hey, get the car, get the trailer behind it, and ship it to Seattle. Can you drive? Oh, yeah, I'm ready. We're packed. We're going to go. So my next day, my dad leaves to drive from Florida up the East Coast to Seattle. Well, that day, I get to the park early. It's opening day, right? I'm told to go upstairs and see the general manager, Daniel Bryan. And of course, I got to sign a contract. Makes perfect sense. I go up, and he's telling me they're going to release me. And I was numb. I don't know if I heard anything after he said they were going to release me, because it was just never even on my radar. Been told I'm making the team. So I have to go now tell my dad. And this is back when we weren't cell phones, guys. So I got to call a friend of mine who knows a police guy who can call other police guys. They had to stop my dad he's driving across the nation to get to Seattle, to stop the car and go back home. And now to try and get another job. Anyway, I called my agent, Ron Shapiro. He gets me a job at the Mets. You're going to go to AAA. Of course I'm going to go to AAA. It's opening day. Who's going to give me a big league job? So I meet Davey Johnson there. This is what started my Mets sandwich. Davey Johnson, I played for Davey. And I get to the Mets. I played there 83, 84 in the minor leagues, learned how to catch, learned how to play third base, get called up in 85. So I got to watch that year unfold. Davey did such a great job. Mel Stoddard. You could see it happening. There was a wave building. And then I get let go I get Rule 5 by the Cardinals.
Oh.
Whitey brings me back, who I played for in Kansas City. And I'm thinking, oh, well, this is cool. Now people want me again. I go to St. Louis. The Mets won it all. I'm in St. Louis that year. We have a horrible year. That winter, I go back to the Mets. The Cardinals win it all the next year. They go to the World Series. For 3 years in a row, I was on the wrong team. I was on the Mets, Cardinals, Mets, and everybody went to the World Series except for the team I was on. So when I started showing up in the clubhouse, guys would be like, oh, God, here's the kiss of death here. Here's lucky number 13. Well, I guess we'll finish second.
It's like Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote. She shows up in town, you got to leave. Somebody's going to die.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I got to see it unfold, and you could see it happening. And, and Davey did such a nice job there and a few other people. But the sustainability of what goes into winning championships is hard. That's why when you see teams go on these runs, these dynasties, it's pretty impressive because they say the hardest thing to do in pro sports is to repeat. And truthfully, I've seen that play out, throughout my coaching career, my playing career, and my managerial career, and for other people that I know within the game.
Clint, I was talking to Brian before the show, and it was like, his role now as a special assistant. I was like, what exactly is a special assistant? But then when you boil it down and you look at your career and, all the accolades and your experiences, the Rockies hit a home run here with you to have you as a special assistant. But I have a more serious question to talk to you about. You had been open about your struggle with alcohol in the past, and I myself am going on 2.5 years of sobriety now. And yourself as a special assistant, how you relate and talk to players. I mean, let's be honest. There's substance abuse in every profession, and I'm sure it's going on in every organization at some point. Is that something that you talk to openly with players about, or is that something that you struggled with while you were a player, or is it something later in your career that you had to deal with?
Well, I talk openly. There's one of the things. I still go to AA meetings. I'm headed to one. I'm headed to one tomorrow morning here in Hartford. They talk about anonymity, and I get it. It's important for a lot of people and for all the right reasons. For me, I kicked my anonymity to the curb a long time ago. And it's not because I'm special. It's not because I just think I can help use it as a platform for others to welcome them and make them understand that they may be bent, but they're not broken. They may be bruised, but it's not over. I was fortunate that, I started drinking in pro ball. I tried to become a pro on everything I did. And, jokingly, I tell people I got to retire from drinking after my 5 millionth beer. But I have 24 years of sobriety. It's something I do share with the players. Our players in our organization know it. And they all got my number anyway about anything. And it's one of the things I really feel I've been blessed with in my life. I've dealt with hardship. I've dealt with loss. I've been divorced twice. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm a cancer survivor. There's not a lot you can throw at me that I haven't had to figure out, deal with, cry, laugh, hug. And I think players can identify with failure and struggle more than they can with a guy that's got 9 gold gloves and 14 silver bats. And most of the time I travel with Helton. His back's thrown out, so he can't be here this time. You want to talk about salt and pepper? I mean, you got Todd Helton that walks in, pretty special cat, gifted on the diamond. And then I can share with them a lot of different ways in these managers. But there's no doubt there's players that are hurting. And mental depression, is probably as big a thing as going on within our world, let alone sport, as anything else right now. And just trying to get people to understand that, your feelings are your feelings, and you need to pay attention to them. But sometimes feelings aren't facts. And if you're numbing yourself to get through your day, obviously there may be a better option. And I just share with them my journey and what's transpired since I got sober, because none of what I accomplished on the other side of ball after playing would ever have happened if I didn't get sober. I believe with all my heart. I mean, 17 years a major league manager, there's people that still laugh about that. How in the hell did he ever get hired twice?
Yeah.
I knew him when.
I got to tell you, though, I want to ask you if you think your playing career would have been different, but in the interest of time, what you say is really dynamic to me, because one of the things in my head in doing research to talk to you is that it says something about a person that even teams that let you go then hire you as a manager. So it hires you in their organization. So I think that there's a little bit of humility there that's misplaced in the sense that you clearly established some strong relationships, in places that you might not have even thought you were highly successful. And so I think that that's a testament to, who you are as a person, pre-sobriety or post-sobriety. But as someone who still does imbibe, but alcohol is damaging no matter who you are, no matter how much you have. I mean, it's not a healthy thing. But you talk about the success you had after, your playing career. I want to go to 2007 because we only have time for a couple more questions. And, again, I was there, I experienced 86 as a fan, and I had a friend who worked for the Red Sox. I was there in 2003 when they lost to the Yankees. I was there in 2004 when it all changed, and I was there in 2007 too. And I'm just curious, people don't know the history of the Rockies. I mean, obviously expansion franchise and had this incredible run at the end of the season and just steamrolled the playoffs, and then go to the World Series and get stopped cold. And I'm curious now that you look back on it, how did that happen?
Well, first and foremost, we were hovering around 500 all year. And one thing I kept sharing with our guys, we haven't got hot yet. I am the eternal optimist. My wife will tell you. I'm that guy that sometimes wears on you because I believe in positivity. I believe in negativity. I know what's going to happen if you're negative. You're surrounding yourself with negative people. I know what's going to happen. Positive people, there's a chance something good's going to happen. But we got hot late. And we got more than hot. We got scalding hot. And we won 21 out of 22 to get invited to the World Series. And we won it so quickly and efficiently. We had 8 days off. And I will say this. We lost to a hot team, a talented team. Bad combination to run into. However, 8 days off, that killed us. Our momentum, our mojo, our swagger, it was gone. We were playing on adrenaline. We were playing on the rhythm. There is a rhythm to the game. And to set 8 days in practice and try live BPs and inter squads and crowd noise pumped in and all that, it didn't help. And then we ran into a team that was red hot. So that's how that happened in my mind. Better team won. I would have loved for us to take, like they did, have a day off or something, or two at the max, and then keep playing again. Because we were something fun to be around, something fun to watch when we went on that roll at the end.
Yeah, baseball is not meant for sitting around. If you're rolling, you got to keep rolling. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Well, listen, we appreciate the time we've had, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk to you again, Clint. And I think for young fans, I mean, John has two sons who just bleed the game of baseball, and I think John's right. And we don't mean to be sycophantic or blow smoke, but I mean, to have you in the organization with the playing and with the managing, it's just must be fun for the kids to get to just hang. And plus the hair. How's the hair doing?
The hair, you can hit a 7-iron out of my hair. Warming Bernabel, our third baseman, puts his head on my hair every time I come in because he goes, nice. It's just, it's that little patch of fake grass they throw down at the golf course every once in a while for you to hit irons off of. I will share this with you. For those that are out there, listeners, if somebody's needs some encouragement, somebody maybe was looking for some faith or something, I put out 2 daily emails free. And all you got to do is go to ClintHurdle.com to sign up. It's mail proof. It's free. It's easy to sign up. You hit ClintHurdle.com. It takes you to my very short website, and it gives you an opportunity to plug in your address, and you pick which devotional you want. One's encouragement, one's faith. You can pick both. You can pick one. But it comes from a lot of people that I read, thoughts I have. It's daily. Well, it's 6 days a week. I kind of run it on the Chick-fil-A philosophy. We take Sundays off.
Clint, you read my mind. I was just going to ask you about that, and that's interesting. You want to tell the quick backstory, how you started that real quick, how this evolved?
Well, we started it. One of my greatest mentors was Kelly McGregor, who was the president of the Rockies, and 10 years younger than me. Just a magnificent man. He loved me. He cared for me. He grew me up off the field. He helped me grow up on the field, but he was our team president. And he encouraged me to start a little get-together with some people to kind of cross-pollinate. I had some coaches, I had some front office employees, and I had a couple leaders in the front office. We'd come down twice a homestand, and we'd have a 30-minute leadership thing. Somebody would pick a person, a place, or a thing, and then I'd come up with some quotes and some thoughts, and we'd just spend a half hour together. And then I would wrap it up in a text and then send it back to them, just so they could review the notes. And at the bottom, I would put, make a difference today. Well, I started it in 2009. 2 months into the season, I got fired. And I can remember after doing it for 2 months, I loved doing it. I loved the people. Everybody loved it. And for 2 months, and then that's all over. My swipe card doesn't work anymore. My wife tells me to take off my watch. You got nowhere to go. They don't want you down there. And we're on a vacation at the Outer Banks, and it's July 4th weekend. And I get a phone call on a morning walk with my wife. And I don't take it because I'm on a walk with my wife. I wait till we get back. I call. It's one of the ladies that worked for the Rockies that was in the leadership get-together. And she goes, well, how are you doing? I said, well, it's kind of weird. It's my first vacation in 35 years. But I'm good, with my kids and my wife. I said, I'm good. I go, how are you doing? She goes, to be honest with you, she goes, the baseball part of it, ever since they fired you, we're starting to win a lot, which is good. She goes, however, everybody around here misses you because you were more than a manager. You were a friend. She goes, I miss our meetings. I miss that sharing, that learning. And she goes, you used to write, make a difference today, love Clint at the bottom of all of them. I go, yeah, I did. She goes, well, I don't think either one of them's true anymore. You're not making a difference in my life anymore, and I don't think you love me. And I just said, oh, okay, thanks. And I hung up. And my wife goes, what happened? I go, I just got a call. And I told her what happened. She goes, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to figure it out. Go back to that, right? I'm going to figure it out. I took a walk, and I go, you know what? I'll just start sending out texts Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and to that group. Well, that group was 12, and then it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and the text messaging got so complicated for me. My wife's laughing at me. I'm trying to send 1,000 texts a day. It's a mess. And then I go emails, and that builds. It's up over 6,500 people for the encouragement email and over 5,500 for the devotion. And they go out 6 days a week.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Well, you got a couple more subscribers after today. Hey, listen, Clint, we appreciate the time. We look forward to hopefully meeting you face to face next time you're in Hartford, because we're down at the Yard Goats all the time. We're good friends with Tim as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, best of luck to you, Clint. Thank you.
You guys are welcome. My next trip in, I'll reach out ahead of time and we'll watch the game together. How about that?
That sounds awesome.
Sounds awesome. You've been listening to Fanbase, a deep dive into the greatest rivalry in sports.